So we have three different function definitions here. This is f of x in blue. Here we map between different values of t and what g of t would be. So you could view this as a definition of g of t. And here we map from x to h of x. So for example, when x is equal to 3, h of x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 1, h of x is equal to 2. And actually, let me number this. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Now, what I want to do in this video is introduce you to the idea of composing functions. Now, what does it mean to compose functions? Well, that means to build up a function by composing one function of other functions, or I guess you can think of nesting them. What do I mean by that? Well, let's think about what it means to evaluate. What does it mean to evaluate f of, not x, but we're going to evaluate f of, actually, let's just start with a little warm-up. Let's evaluate f of g of 2. Now, what do you think this is going to be? And I encourage you to pause this video and think about it on your own. Well, it seems kind of daunting at first if you're not very familiar with the notation, but we just have to remember what a function is. A function is just a mapping from one set of numbers to another. So, for example, when we're saying g of 2, that means take the number 2, input it into the function g, and then you're going to get an output, which we are going to call g of 2, g of 2. Now, we're going to use that output, g of 2, and then input it into the function f. So we're going to input it into the function f. We're going to input it into the function f, and what we're going to get is f of the thing that we inputted, f of g of 2, f of g of 2. So let's just take this step by step. What is g of 2? Well, when t is equal to 2, g of 2 is negative 3. So g of 2 is negative 3. And so when I put negative 3 into f, what am I going to get? Well, I'm going to get negative 3 squared minus 1, which is 9 minus 1, which is going to be equal to 8. So this right over here is equal to 8. F of g of 2 is going to be equal to 8. Now, what would, using that same exact logic, what would f of h of 2 be? F of h of 2 be? And once again, I encourage you to pause the video and think about it on your own. Well, let's think about it this way. Instead of doing it using this little diagram, here, everywhere you see the input is x. So whatever you do with whatever the input is, you square it and minus 1. Here, the input is h of 2. And so we're going to take the input, which is h of 2, and we're going to square it, and we're going to square it, and then we're going to subtract, and we're going to subtract 1. So f of h of 2 is h of 2 squared minus 1. Now, what is h of 2? When x is equal to 2, h of 2 is 1. So h of 2 is 1. So since h of 2 is equal to 1, this simplifies to 1 squared minus 1. Well, that's just going to be 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0. And we could have done it with the diagram way. We could have said, hey, we're going to input 2 into h. Input 2 into h. If you input 2 into h, you get 1. So that is h of 2 right over here. So that is h of 2. And then we're going to input that into f. And then we're going to input that into f, which is going to give us f of 1. F of 1 is 1 squared minus 1, which is 0. Which is 0. So this right over here is f of h of 2. H of 2 is the input into f, so the output is going to be f of our input, f of h of 2. Now we can go even further. Let's do a composite. Let's compose three of these. Let's compose three of these functions together. So let's take, let's take g of, and I'm doing this on the fly a little bit, so I hope it's a good result. G of, and let me switch the order. G of f of 2. And let me just think about this for 1 second. So that's going to be g of f of 2. And let's take h of g of f of 2, just for fun. H of. So now we're really doing a triple composition. So there's a bunch of ways we could do this. One way is to just try to evaluate what is f of 2. Well, f of 2 is going to be equal to 2 squared minus 1. It's going to be 4 minus 1, or 3. So this is going to be equal to 3. Now what is g of 3? G of 3 is, when t is equal to 3, g of 3 is 4. So g of 3, this whole thing is 4. F of 2 is 3, g of 3 is 4. What is h of 4? Well, we can just look back to our original graph here. When x is 4, h of 4 is negative 1. So h of g of f of 2 is just equal to negative 1. So hopefully this makes you somewhat familiar with how to evaluate the composition of functions.